Here with this week's hottest stories in the investment world, this is Zacks Friday Finish Line.
Hello and welcome to the Zacks Friday Finish Line. I'm Ryan McQueenie, content writer here at Zacks, along with another member of our content team, Adam Clark.
How's it going?
Today is Friday, July 22nd. Adam is filling in for our usual co-host, Maddie, and we're here to recap this week's biggest stories.
Yeah, so we've had a plethora of earning reports this week, and I promise we'll get to all the major companies that reported. But first, let's touch on a few other headlines going on around the world.
Yeah, definitely. So we came in the office this week, Monday, with dealing with the aftermath of the Turkish coup. I first started hearing about it on Friday afternoon. Slowly but surely, that story developed. I don't know if you were you keeping track of it as it. I was fascinated by the whole thing, so I was watching CNN all day.
You know, I feel like there was so much else going on this week that I really didn't. The most I did was just between us, but I mean, I don't know. It seems kind of crazy over there.
Basically a real deal military coup. There were certain branches or a certain group of the Turkish military that was attempting to take control by ousting President Erdogan. They kind of just in the middle of the night said, "Hey, this is martial law. We're taking control," as one does in a military coup. It was kind of a mess though, and it didn't seem very well organized, and it was squashed very quickly. Erdogan was actually on vacation. He came home. The whole thing was over very quickly. And since then, he's just been arresting everyone left and right. Military officials, judges.
Giving him a week off.
Yeah, anyone that has spoken out against him is in jail right now, it sounds like. So he's kind of using this coup as a way to increase his political power. And that's really all I want to say about the politics of the situation, because it's definitely a lot more nuanced than that. But the story here as it pertains to the markets is that it really seems like investors are ignoring the coup for the most part. Looking at Monday's trading activity, the iShares Turkey ETF, which trades as TUR, was down about 6.5% on Monday, which makes sense. Seeing Turkish stocks pretty much down across the board is to be expected, but 6.5% when we just saw a full-blown military coup, maybe not as bad as you could have expected.
Yeah, nothing close to the response to the Brexit we first had.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing like that.
Yeah, that's even a good point. And even the fact that the Turkish city of Istanbul is home to the Bosphorus Strait, which is a major oil shipping choke point. Something like 3% of all of the world's oil supply will go through the Bosphorus Strait. It was closed briefly during the coup, reopened over the weekend, but we didn't really see oil prices react to that this week at all, which is interesting to note. I mean, it could have be the fact that it didn't end up having that much of an impact on the day-to-day operations because the coup was over so quickly. Obviously, a lot of things to pay attention to for how the political climate takes shape over the next few months in Turkey. There's a lot of instability there still, but it seems like the markets are kind of already past it. That was the first thing I wanted to note this week.
Yeah, so we also had the the Republican National Convention, obviously, with Trump. It was a week of speeches and endorsements, but also it was really a week where the Republican platform for the election gets established. It all culminated last night with Trump accepting the nomination, but there was some surprising news earlier this week. So the campaign announced that they were officially adopting the stance of the Glass-Steagall Act. They're saying that it should be reinstated, and basically what that law was, it was a regulatory law that was first passed in the wake of the 1929 stock market crash, so way back
in the day.
Yes. Yeah, and it separated the investment and commercial banking activities, and it was repealed in the late 90s, and that was seen as a contributing factor to the huge 2008 crash. These banks became massive entities, and I don't know if you've seen The Big Short, but they were doing some they were practicing some very dangerous
good cultural reference.
Investment tactics. But actually, breaking up the big banks has been a big far left stance. Obviously Hillary Clinton's pretty big on that, even though
Yeah.
most would say she's tight with the big banks, but
Trump would say that, I think.
yeah, I
Even
think I
is
think
that
Trump
he
might
would,
say that.
yeah.
But that could have a huge effect. I mean, we saw the banks have a huge drop after the Brexit vote.
Yeah.
Even the domestic stocks, banking stocks were down. JP Morgan Chase under the ticker JPM, Bank of America ticker BAC, Citigroup ticker just the letter C, and then Wells Fargo WFC. They're probably not really happy with that stance. They usually can.
Yeah, and these are those big commercial banks that have really benefited from the repeal of Glass-Steagall. And if you look back, I think it was repealed in '98 or '99. It was under the Bill Clinton administration. And a lot of people will point to the repeal as a contributing factor to the 2008 crash. How much it influenced the crash, what the impact was. Talk to people across the political spectrum, you're going to get a lot of disagreement there, but certainly something that has led to a lot of growth for these big commercial banks as they can kind of now merge the commercial and investment banking activities. Like as you noted, the interesting thing is that you hear breaking up the big banks as a far left standpoint, and as you pointed out, Hillary, one of her criticisms is that a criticism of her is that she seems to be kind of in bed with Wall Street often, and the biggest donations to her campaign are coming from these big Wall Street banks. But even her competitor Bernie Sanders put the break up the big banks as a huge part of his platform, and to see a Republican, especially Trump, who has not talked about this at all until this week, come out this week and say we need to reinstate Glass-Steagall is pretty surprising.
I think it's almost a move towards. I mean, I know you guys talked about way back. Millennials kind of distrusting the big financial institutions just because of what happened in '08. Could be a play on hitting towards millennials. I don't know. I mean, I think that Trump's obviously seems to be more socially lenient. So I don't know. I mean, it was very interesting though. I was definitely taken back by it.
Mm-hmm.
I was very surprised to hear him say that. But
that's actually a really good point about what is Trump, and that's why I think this week was so big for Republicans across the country, is because they started to get a better sense of what Trump's actual goals and plans were. A lot of his primary campaign was based off of doing something different or not being the other candidates. A lot of anti-establishment rhetoric, stuff like that. And now, that only gets you so far. When you're going to run against an experienced politician like Hillary Clinton, you need a platform.
Yeah.
And we really saw that platform develop this week with a couple interesting things to note, and I think this Glass-Steagall thing was one of them. So
yeah, definitely. But let's get to the big news of the week. Let's get to the earning reports.
Let's get to earnings. The elephant in the room this week is earnings. The second quarter earnings season is in full swing.
Absolutely.
And we've had a lot of wonderful companies reporting this week with mixed results. And so I'll start with Netflix, which reported its second quarter earnings on Monday. Obviously, Netflix trades as NFLX. So not so great from Netflix. They beat earnings estimates. So the company posted earnings of 9 cents per share, significantly ahead of our Zacks consensus estimate of 2 cents per share. But revenue came in just a little bit under. Looking at revenue for the quarter of $2.105 billion. Our estimate was $2.11 billion. The big thing, though, and this is what you saw as the kind of after-hours trading activity, was that Netflix membership grew by 1.7 million members. So they're now at over 83. But this was well below the forecasted growth of 2.5 million new members. So, and that 2.5 million, had already been adjusted down from previous estimate of 3.3.
Yeah, so
million.
they were way
so well below. I mean, over less than half of what the original number was expected to be, or around half. So some I guess concerning numbers, especially because of the fact that Netflix is always traded on its membership growth numbers. This is like always the key piece of data with their earnings reports. Um, so yeah, that the stock took a hit this week, and I think we'll touch on it more later after we
Absolutely.
get through all these facts. But definitely disappointing news from Netflix this week.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've got some really interesting stats when we get into Netflix and what they can do later. But there's also Microsoft this week. They trade under the ticker MSFT. They reported Tuesday. They reported their fourth quarter earnings.
Okay,
They
so the
beat,
end of the fiscal year. For
end of the
Microsoft.
fiscal year. So they beat our Zacks consensus estimate. They posted, and pretty handily, they posted 69 cents per share. Which beat the estimate of 58 cents a share. And they also beat revenue estimates. They posted revenue of 22.6 billion, and our estimate was 22.11 billion. And a big stat to note from them is their revenue from the company's intelligent cloud segment grew 7% to a total of 6.7 billion.
Yeah,
So
and there's that word again for people who follow tech stocks is cloud. We're seeing more and more and more and more cloud-based stocks succeeding and doing well. Cloud computing, cloud-based software, showing that it has high profit margins and is in high demand right now. So
yeah, I mean they have Azure, which competes with like Amazon's AWS.
this is true.
Continued its triple digit growth story, grew 102% over the quarter. So, I mean, it's, like you said, the cloud just continues to be a huge thing for these tech stocks. You see like a company like Adobe trades under ADBE, huge for them too. And this year Microsoft's up little under 2%. But since the beginning of 2015, up 21%. I mean, it's really been a big winner.
Yeah, definitely. I remember it being something we talked about at the end of 2015 as a stock that had a great year. Up and down this year so far, its earnings report on Tuesday. One of the better parts of the year so far. Obviously, they had the LinkedIn purchase,
Yep.
which caused some mixed reactions as well. We talked about this on the show, but I think we talked about this on the show at least. Kind of iffy from investors' perspectives on whether that purchase was a good deal or not. But regardless, their cloud segment growing strong. And Microsoft was one of the few big name companies this week that we saw with a really solid earnings report.
Yeah, I mean,
something to get behind.
There's been some positive ones, but they really did, they relatively, for the most part, knocked it out of the park. I mean,
Yeah.
they did extremely well.
Speaking of someone on the other end of the spectrum, though, Southwest Airlines, they reported on Thursday. They trade under the ticker LUV. The airline posted earnings of $1.19 per share, which fell short of the Zacks consensus estimate by 3 cents. They did edge out revenue estimates by about $12 million, but as a long-standing powerhouse stock in the airline industry, Southwest is now a Zacks ranks number 5 strong sell stock. The stock took a beating after the earnings report. I remember us as a team talking about this a little bit this week. Is that there was a long time where Southwest was one of the go-to, with airline stocks having so much value, was the go-to value stock, the go-to airline pick. And that just seems like it isn't the case anymore, especially with this earnings report. I guess, going forward, we'll see if they can recover or if another airline will step up and become that kind of go-to.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote something on this yesterday, I think, in the, I looked, in this year, I want to say they're down like 20% year to date or so, but, since either 13 or 14, they were up like 100%. I mean,
Yeah.
they, doubled. So, they've been a big success story, but obviously, when you do something well, people are going to, try and, beat it.
Mm-hmm.
Their low cost structures helped them out a lot. They've done really well, but, they cited in their earnings report increased lower ticket prices because of increased competition. I mean, it's
So that low cost structure coming back to bite them when the competition also picks up that low cost structure and they have to reduce prices even more to compete,
which
or
that's
to,
I mean
to
that's what
stay
hurting
as the
them.
cheapest option.
Yeah.
Um, it's a tight situation they've put themselves in if they want to keep being that, hey, we're the cheap, we're the value bet with all the routes too, because you see a lot of regional airlines that also have those cheap ticket costs, but they don't have the destinations like Southwest does. And it's just for so long, if you wanted to get anywhere in the country, Southwest was the cheapest ticket, and that might still be the case, but that's kind of hurting their bottom line, it looks like.
Yeah, the big stat that really hurt them, their earnings report wasn't, it wasn't great, but really what hurt them was they predicted a 4% fall in revenue next quarter. I mean,
Sure.
that's really what sent it, spiraling, and then they give reasons like increased competition and, lowered ticket prices. There's not a ton you can do about that. It's not you can just raise your prices and it's all fixed, because then you're getting undercut. So,
Sure.
they've they've got to figure it out. They got to change something. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, another company that needs to figure it out. One of your personal favorites, huh?
One of my favorites, Chipotle, trades under CMG. Reported its second quarter earnings. It's been a rough year. Some food safety
say that
scares.
again,
Yeah,
yeah.
I can repeat that. They missed earnings reports, or they missed estimates. They posted earnings of 87 cents per share, excluding special items, and which missed the Zacks consensus estimate of 98 cents per share. They also missed on revenues. They saw figures of 998.4 million, and our estimate was actually over $1 billion, 1.04 billion, and that's a decrease of 16.6% year over year. And really, what killed them was they saw same store sales decline 26.5%, which from most of what I've read, really people were expecting only 20.6%. So
Yeah.
it wasn't. It was obviously bad, but
yeah, no one was expecting anything
No.
great from Chipotle.
what's really
this
interesting
quarter.
with them is this most of this year they're gonna have they have a lot of leeway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost, it's not that it's bad, it's how bad is it?
Yeah,
So
and
they
this
got-
was not a
and this
good.
was worse than
This was
expected,
way
yeah.
worse than expected, and so that's what I was gonna say is that no one was expecting anything great from Chipotle this quarter.
No.
We knew they were going to struggle with same store sales. That we knew they were going to have a hit to revenue. Customers just after this food safety scandal, customers just have not been coming back that quickly.
No.
But like you said, I mean, and you really can't say it enough. It is the customers aren't coming back anywhere near as quickly as we thought they would, or anywhere near in the numbers that we thought they would. Revenue decline 16.6%.
Yeah,
and a 26.5% same store sales decline. That's just really. I mean, I wish I had a better adjective than like really bad,
Yeah.
but so that kind of leads us to a couple questions I wanted to bounce off of you.
Definitely.
And I'm going to bring us back over to Netflix as well, because now we're seeing Chipotle and Netflix both having issues with customers not having enough of them. In the case of Chipotle, it seems like people up and left
Yep.
and are going to competitors. With Netflix, they're also seeing a little bit of the same thing. They saw a lot of cancellations with the price increase, but also they're seeing issues with it cost them a ton of money to do this international expansion they did at the end of last year, and they're not seeing the membership gains they expected. Is it maybe that these companies, like, their products just aren't as great as we originally thought? Like, maybe they're not that spectacular, or what do they need to do to get those impressive customer numbers that we once saw?
Yeah, they differ. I think I have different opinions on both. I'll start with Netflix. I'll say, I think that the obviously the miss they had on user growth was bad, but I think it's a little bit over dramatic. I think that they raised prices, they lost approximately 300,000 subscribers, but that's less than 1% of their total domestic base. I mean, So
But how dare you say that the market overreacted
Oh,
to
yeah,
one line of
yeah.
their earnings report?
But I just think that as Netflix matures into a more mature company instead of just more of a growth, a growth stock, a favorite stock of people. I think that you have to look at more than just their growth rates. I think you have to look at things, you know, like
Like earnings,
earnings and
coming in
stuff.
5 cents or 7 cents above the Zacks
Yeah,
consensus estimate.
it's just completely overlooked, and I just think that's a little bit unfair. And I think I mean, they're leading the space for what they do in internet TV. I mean, they're still the leader, and they're still leading
By
the
a
pack
lot.
by a lot.
By a
Yeah,
lot.
by a lot.
It's not even close.
Yeah, I mean, 83 million global subscribers, and you have to think there's a billion paid TV subscribers. I'm not saying they're all gonna jump ship and migrate over to internet TV, but over the next couple of decades, it's likely that a pretty significant portion is going to start heading over.
Yeah.
And even in, like you said, a huge leader, HBO Now is $15, CBS's Showtime is $11, Hulu's 12. I mean, and I think
Still
Netflix
the
is
cheaper,
10, and
yeah.
they're still the cheapest option. I mean, I think that they're still in a good spot. I think they're in a very good spot.
I agree with you. For the very most part. I will say that I think that relatively soon the market needs to shift into this focus on Netflix, where we're not just looking at their membership growth. That has been the key for such a long time. But guess what? Their international expansion is over. There's like 200 sovereign nations in the world. They're in 190 of them now.
Yeah.
So they are not expanding into new markets anymore. And at some point, their membership is gonna plateau. At some point, you're gonna reach this level where everyone that wants to have an online streaming service that they're
gonna
paying
have
for
one.
already has one. That's probably a few years away still. But like you said, Netflix is still in the lead by a long shot.
Yeah,
They still
definitely.
have the cheapest product. They still have a massive library of Emmy award winning original content and also licensing. That I think is the issue, is that they are struggling with. We've seen them struggle with licensing deals over the past year or so, and they've put so much more money into their original content because of it.
Yeah, six billion on that.
Yeah,
for their content,
which is
this year.
okay. I mean, the thing is that the library is shrinking a little bit, which is why I think that the deals with like Disney and the CW that we've seen them make recently are very, very important. Because people, might be leaving because they think the Amazon instant video library is better or something like that. Like you have to be worried about what content you're actually hosting as well. And are people getting what they're paying for? Which is not the problem. Kind of harsh transition back over to Chipotle.
Yeah.
Are people worried about the product that they're getting at Chipotle? So are people still worried about, is there E. coli in the food? Is that a real concern, or is there a mental block or whatnot? Because I've said on the show a million times, I never stopped going to Chipotle. I
I'm right
wasn't
there
worried
with
about
you.
the E. coli. Statistics were on my side in that thing the whole time. I knew I was going to have to be very unlucky to get sick. And the food tastes really good, still tastes really good,
Yep.
has always tasted really good. I'm sure will continue to taste really good for forever. But, 26.5% same store sales decline. A lot of people disagree with me. So I don't know what to do. And I know you like Chipotle
Oh yeah,
too. So.
I mean, you're talking to someone who's went twice this week and might go this afternoon again, 2 days in a row. So, I don't know. Personally, for me, I never stopped. I obviously watched as reports came out about more and more, things happening. I saw once Illinois pop up, and I was like, okay, like I go to school in Wisconsin, so it never really hit home.
Mm-hmm.
I saw one. I didn't even know where in Illinois, but I saw that there was a reported case. So it was
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, okay. But personally for me, I eat super healthy, and I really don't eat much fast food. So this fat, for me, for Chipotle is like my splurge. I mean, it's not unhealthy. It's just a lot of calories. So I love it. But I don't know. It must be a mental block. I think I can't really imagine that. The food, like you said, still tastes good. It's going to continue to taste great, and maybe it's just a mental block. It also could be a little bit of boredom. They're adding they're adding the new sausage, the Spanish sausage with
Chorizo.
chorizo. Yeah, I mean, we'll
I'm
see how that
disappointed
goes.
in you for not knowing what.
Yeah,
Spanish
I did.
sausage
I
is
did
called.
know. I
Chorizo.
took Spanish for years. I did know. I just
I
couldn't
just had
think of it.
chorizo. I made myself chorizo last night.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
like chorizo.
and I was looking at some numbers, and it's only in a couple markets right now. It's not national. It's coming out national. I want to say in the fall. It's only like 6 to 7% of entrees for where it's at right now, so it's not huge yet. I think that could change. I don't know the numbers on the sofritas.
This is what I've been saying to, the imaginary Chipotle executives that sit near my desk is that they really just need to work on expanding the menu, because I think this Chiptopia rewards program thing they're doing this summer is going to be great. You said there's something in the earnings report they mentioned the fact that they're already seeing July numbers increase.
So CEO Steve Ells, he made a couple statements about it. He suggested that sales have started to rebound thanks to the program. It just started July 1st. I don't know when this was as of, but it 3.6 million so far have joined for the program. And I'm sure it's jumping every day. Went yesterday and they're offering everyone, do you have it?
Line,
if you don't,
I noticed that.
If you don't have it, here's your card. Just go online and activate it.
The 3 or 4 times I've been since they started giving out the cards, they've been hassling everyone in line. And I wonder if that's a nationwide policy or what. But
it's got to be. I mean,
it makes sense. They've never had a universal rewards program like this before. Obviously, it's going to be a good idea. Every other food company
everyone
like that has some sort of, especially in the fast casual business, everybody has some sort of rewards program. But what I've been saying is keep trying new things at the menu. I think this chorizo thing is great. I mean, in the restaurant industry, mixing up your menu has always been a way to get customers back in the door or keep coming. One thing I will say, because we are running a little low on time, and we could talk about Chipotle for hours. I know me and you. Can we get some queso in Chipotle, please?
I did that article last week.
Can I get some queso, please?
We went over this, Ryan, and I did the article last week. Steve Ells tried it, and he did. He tried it. He made a fresh 3 Mexican cheese blend queso. But the problem with queso is it's very fake. Good. To keep I'm sure it was great, but. So first of all, the problem with queso is it's fake. I mean, it's just cheese is not liquid.
That's true.
So the stuff that goes into it to keep it liquid is not really with the whole food with integrity thing. Second of all, he put it in a taste test with Velveeta, and Velveeta's great.
Amazing, yeah.
It's great.
I put Velveeta on my burritos. Just give it to me.
Yeah, it's great, but he did it. I mean, the whole food with integrity, it just completely go against what they stand for. And he put it in a taste test with Velveeta, and the Velveeta, every single person chose Velveeta. So he gave up. I mean, and I don't blame it. Yeah, but if you can, their whole menu, and that's the thing with their menu.
Maybe I'll send them an email or something.
You can try. I mean, I'm sure people have, but the whole thing with them is, they could expand their menu, but if you can't do it right, don't do it all. Don't do it at all. And I think that's their thing, and that's why they haven't expanded so far. Just because if they're going to do something, it has
I hate when morals and ethics get in the way of my delicious lunches. So. That's actually a good point. I think there's a lot of people that really want queso at Chipotle that would have never considered that.
No, I don't think most people know that.
All right, so that was 4 of the biggest ones. There was a lot more this week. We had Qualcomm, we had AT&T, we had Starbucks, we had everyone across the board. You can find all that coverage on the site, Zacks.com. Links to all of the stories we covered today will be in the article accompanying this. Make sure to check them all out if you want more details. Earnings season is just now starting. We are in full swing. There will be more next week. We will be surely covering them all again next week. But for now, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next Friday.
Sounds good.